Spurs supporter, that was my first love.
I think that Tottenham are better for having Daniel Levy running the football club than they would be with someone else.
The brief of him going in there was to be successful and win trophies. He's failed miserably at that. That was a moment where you invest.
You still have to win trophies, don't you, to be defined as a successful team. This expression, Spursy, do you think it's steeped in any substance?
If I was involved with Spurs, that would hurt. I'm not sure why they call him Big Ange.
Maddison.
I met him in Portugal last year. He's a rascal.
Welcome to episode 7 of Simon and Souness, or as Graham would prefer it to be known, Simon and any other fella.
Any other geezer?
Any other geezer. Or Souness and Simon, it doesn't really matter. It's Simon and Souness for the time being. How are you, Gray? You okay?
I'm good.
Shoulder?
Yeah, I had a little operation on it last week, so it's still a wee bit sore, but
But you're soldiering
I'm
on.
good, yeah.
You wouldn't make a mountain out of it, would you? You wouldn't milk it?
Much.
No. Good.
I need you to help me on my jacket afterwards, if you don't mind.
You need me to put on your jacket?
No.
No, thank you. No, thank you. No, you look like a refugee from
Right,
Park.
Simon, I'm going to start this week. What is your relationship like with Daniel Levy?
What was it like, or what is it like now? It was
Both past and present.
back in the day. It wasn't the greatest because Daniel was always trying to take players from me. He tried to take Andrew Johnson. He tried to take Wayne Routledge. I think when we got promoted in 2004, Wayne was a young player that had come out of my academy. It was an academy that I was very proud of, and I spent a lot of time in making sure that young players had come through it and given an opportunity. Obviously, the first team manager made the selections of who played and didn't. So when it comes to us getting promoted and Wayne's coming to the last year of his contract, and I've already had the indignation of Paul Stretford hanging around him like a bad smell, it was frustrating for me to find out the Spurs were coming in for him at the last minute. Daniel was offering me 2 and 6 and doing me a favour. And even when we get to the point where it's like 7 o'clock in the evening, I'm saying, Daniel, we're nowhere near the money. And by the way, you ain't going to get it done anyway because the kid's nowhere to be seen. You're not going to get a medical done. And I'm being told by Daniel that he's around the corner waiting to have a medical, which absolutely entranced me in my position. I didn't warm to him. I didn't think that he and I were cut from the same cloth and thought about things in the same way. And I think also we played him in an FA Cup tie, and I turned up at Spurs not wearing a tie, and they said to me, you got to wear a tie. Have you got a tie? I said, no, I've got a doctor's note. He said, no doctor's notes. You need a tie. And they came out and bought me a Spurs tie. And I said, I'm fucking wearing a Spurs tie to come in your boardroom. But as the years have gone past, I've grown to respect his position. I like him as a bloke now, and I respect, and I know that you and I differ because you look at him through the prism of you've been there forever and a day, and you've won very little with them. But do you not think, Graham, that they've been very, very close? When you look at the appointment initially of Harry that took him to a certain level, and then on to Pochettino, and then you get back in that and you've got Andreas Villas-Boas in the middle of that he gave him a lot of money. I think that Tottenham are better for having Daniel Levy running the football club than they would be with someone else. You asked me this question about Levy, why?
Well, I think if the brief of him going in there was to be successful and win trophies, he's failed miserably at that. I think 1 League Cup in 20 odd years, is it? Being involved in a game where there's so much money sloshing around, and you're a London club, and you're a big London club, it's a difficult task to build a fabulous stadium. Although I will tell you, in my opinion, it's the best football stadium I know
By
of.
a mile. And the training facilities as well.
Well, fantastic.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of letting, or
have you met him?
Briefly once a long time ago. I
How'd you make
don't know.
him?
I've got no opinion of him. No. There's a fella, he might be a great guy. But I'm just looking at, as a Spurs supporter, that was my first love, my first club. I think that in terms of winning trophies, they have failed miserably at that.
You think he buys the players?
Well, I think he's had an influence in his time there.
Didn't John Williams at Blackburn have an influence over you? No influence
He
at
would
all?
offer an opinion, but it'd be my choice ultimately.
Freddie?
No chance. And I don't think that's been the case at Spurs either. I think there's a big say in who they've signed. It's a classic case, I think, of a non-footballing person making football decisions. And then I get it. Delegating can be a difficult job, but Alex Ferguson, the most successful manager in Premier League history, delegated really well. He didn't make, all the day-to-day stuff decisions. He delegated really well, and it worked for them big style. I just feel that in terms of football, there's been a near miss. Going back to the biggest near miss, final of the Champions League, that was a moment where you invest.
Post that season,
the following season, you get to the final.
Point. They spent nothing, did they?
Yeah, you go again, and that's a time to invest money. So, yeah, business-wise, I think Spurs wipe their nose, don't they?
More than that.
Yeah, they turn a profit. Having
140 million. I think they're the club that was responsible for the world record profits. I think that might have been eclipsed now, but back in the day, I don't know. I think on this, the game's changing, Graeme, isn't it? In terms of people's perceptive.
Well, you don't have to win trophies anymore.
No, you still have to win trophies, don't you, to be defined as a successful team. But given all the challenges going on around about financial fair play and governance and how football clubs have to operate now and building brand new stadiums.
In boardrooms here in London, if Daniel Levy was to go tomorrow, he would be judged as a good operator by accountants and boardrooms in this great city we're sitting in right now, London. But by your average Spurs supporter, how would he be viewed?
Yeah, I don't know, mixed bag. I mean, at the moment, because of Ange Postecoglou,
we've got a great chairman because we've not fallen foul of financial fair play.
No, fair enough. Because interesting, because I knew Sugar as well.
Well, that was the next question. You come across him?
I liked him, and there's always this thing. I mean, I like his boys Daniel and Simon, and there was always this. I said something about players once that Alan picked up upon, which was I was asked in a media interview. What do you think about players, or do you care about players? And I said I care about players as much as they care about me, which is a two-way transaction, which means if the players love me, I love them. If they don't like me, I don't like them. And Alan picked up on the precise meaning that I had, which was basically I care about them as much as they care about me, which means about as good as they do their jobs.
Can I tell you a story about Alan Sugar? John Williamson, who was great to work for, he was my boss at Blackburn Rovers, the chief executive. He told a story that when Jack Walker was alive, he had said to John Williams, watch that Alan Sugar, he's smart.
He is smart.
So watch him and watch what moves he makes in football. So that's what Jack Walker thought.
Well, he was smart because ultimately at the beginning of the Premier League, he was the one putting the dishes up. Absolutely. Would you, going back to Spurs, because we're on the Spurs theme, this expression, Spursy, do you think it's steeped in any substance? I mean, when you look at you there, you say it's your first love as a club. You started there in the mid-'70s, right? Early 70s.
It's steeped in not winning trophies. That's what it means.
Does it?
Yeah.
Is that the genesis of it, or is it just because they're flaky at times?
If you're flaky, what don't you do? You don't win trophies.
There's only so many things you can win.
Yeah.
But Aston Villa flaky?
Well, Aston Villa, they've been flaky in as much as they spent time in the Championship. Yeah. They are. But you wouldn't think of them. You wouldn't say that Aston Villa flaky, would you? No, but Spurs, going back certainly in my time in professional football, Spurs have been regarded as one of the big guys.
Yeah.
Aston Villa haven't. And again, for a team in London,
I mean, this is the European champions 40 years ago.
We're talking about Spurs. You've asked me why the word Spursy has been. The word Spursy is about Spurs not winning trophies.
Is it?
Yeah.
And how long has it existed? It wasn't around when you were there, was it?
Most definitely. It's a relatively new thing.
Right.
And the longer it goes, I'm not winning trophies, the Spursy name will always be used against them. And if I was involved with Spurs, that would hurt, because it does suggest you a little bit.
We're a bit lightweight.
Yeah, a little bit milky, doesn't it? You get rolled over easy.
But I mean, that's what it's a very different level, and I get it, and I don't want to parachute myself into a conversation that's not relevant. But that's the very thing that when I bought Palace, everyone used to go, it's like a bit like a character from the Fast Show. It was a little bit wary, a little bit wool. Palace were a little bit soft underneath. Could tickle their belly and they'd roll over, both on the field and off the field. So what I wanted to do was I'm having none of this taking off the field stuff in terms of what we do commercially and how we operate and what business deals we do and how we do it. And I remember watching the first time and myself and Steve Cobb never got on, but watching one of the first games, we got beat 5-0 by a non-league side. And it's a non-league, it's a pre-season game, but it's still embarrassing. And then we played Reading, and Pardew was the manager of Reading, and he had Martin Allen next to him. And I remember him saying, get in amongst them because they've got no. And I remember thinking, that's the precise opposite of my character, and that's the polar opposite of what I want my team to be. Well, we didn't have because they went on PS4 5-0 in that game as well. What do you make of Ange? Obviously you're a Rangers man, so you'd have watched him a little bit at Celtic, but I like him. I like a lot about him. I mean, he's got to win things, and winning things in Scotland is commendable, but it's different.
No, I think he's done everything. I thought he'd struggle because you're taking Harry's goals out of the equation, and you're thinking where the goal's going to come from. I think he's done really, really well at Spurs. The first thing he got on side were the media. They seem to like him. He's got a lovely way with him. I only ever met him once when he was in Scotland in an Italian restaurant. Absolutely charming. He told me the story. He was a ball boy. Scotland, we had to go down to play Australian World Cup qualifier in '86, and he said he was a ball boy at the ground in Melbourne where we played, and he was charming, and he comes across as an honest guy. I'm not sure why they call him Big Ange, because he's my size, and he. I
never thought Sam was that big though when they called him Big Sam.
No, Big Sam, yeah.
He calls himself it.
Does he?
So I've always found a strange thing to do. He calls himself Big Sam.
But Ange has done everything right so far at Spurs, and he has to, he's galvanised the club. People talk about them now about playing an attractive football. They hit the wall a period when they were absolutely flying, didn't they? But they've recovered from that.
They lost all their centre backs. Remember that game after Chelsea? They lost all their centre backs.
But they've recovered from that.
Maddison was a big mix, wasn't he?
Yeah. And I think it's onwards and upwards for Spurs with him in charge.
You like Maddison?
Enormously. I think if you look at his numbers, is that sort of just playing off the striker, that midfield. And number 10, I think the term is today, getting on the ball in a half turn, slipping passes and getting goals. His numbers are better than anyone else. For me, I've said they should use him in the England team.
I was going to say, because he doesn't start.
I think.
Do you think he's a Southgate sort of player, though?
No, what Gareth...
They've got that history, haven't they? They've got that history.
Gareth likes to have sort of two holders, even against the lesser teams. And I would just like to see England off the lead.
Yeah.
And I think to do that, you get him on the pitch. They'll outscore teams.
Because I think Southgate, they've got this history, haven't they, where Maddison couldn't play for England but was caught in a casino or something like that. And I think Southgate is all about people he can rely on, or thinks he can rely on.
Manson's a young boy. We've all done daft things. Now now he isn't a big time with the spotlight firmly on him. I met him in Portugal last year. He's a rascal. He's one of those boys you meet and he's got a glint in his eye. The way he looks at you, I like him.
It's a balance, though, isn't it, between being a rascal and having that devil may care and have that little bit of devil in you. Would you describe it as? Who did you describe as a team of son-in-laws? Was it Arsenal? Remember, you did it years ago. A few years ago, you described it as a team of son-in-laws, didn't you?
Yeah. Or he'd make a great. If your daughter came through the front door with him, you wouldn't be.
Yeah, wouldn't be
unhappy.
welcoming him in.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't be happy. You wouldn't be unhappy because he just seems a nice person.
Really?
Yeah, he'll look after my daughter. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the term son-in-law would suggest that you're a nice person, and footballers sometimes have to cross that line and upset people.
I mean, I'm assuming, given that you think that Maddison could be in the mix, I mean, Bellingham's going to start ahead of him.
Mm-hmm. I
mean, where are you on Bellingham? I mean, you're a central midfield player, not cut from the same cloth as Bellingham, but notwithstanding that, you'll have an eye on that position more than anyone else because you know it better than anyone else.
He's someone who arrives in the box late. He's enormous. I was doing an Scotland-England game at Hampden when England absolutely bullied Scotland off the park without a fight coming back in another direction. Majorly disappointing for me. But I was on the halfway line in the build-up to the game, and so I was maybe 30, 40 feet from that Jude Bellingham. He's a giant. His proportions are perfect. He's a great specimen as an athlete, and he's just a fabulous player who's a star already at 20, playing at the highest level, playing under enormous pressure to produce goods at Real Madrid, which he's done.
Yeah.
In spades so far. He's fulfilled everything that's been asked of him, and he'd be difficult to play against because he just wants to run into the box, arriving late, and he's got the strength to just push you out the way. He's got, he's a goal-scoring midfield player. But I see Maddison being similar to him. I think he can, when they don't have the ball, Bellingham would drop in as a proper midfield player, and because he's got the energy and athleticism to get in the box and get back when you need to get back into your shape. And I see Maddison as someone who just floats around, just off Harry Kane, delivering cute passes, and also having an eye for a goal.
When you look
I
at
think England are a really strong team at this time.
oh bloody hell, Graham! I mean, I'm in the camp that they've got no business not winning this. I mean, look, you get some bad luck in the tournament, you get your key players sent off, or someone gets injured, and that changes the direction, right? We get that. But if none of that happens, and some of it you have to manage anyway,
right? They're the favourites.
Right? So coming out of this World Cup, you've got to turn
Euros.
Sorry, Euros. Coming out of this Euros, England not laying a proper glove on this, and by laying a proper glove on it, I mean winning it, has got to be viewed as a disappointment.
But don't you think that going back to the semi-final against France in the World Cup, they were apprehensive in their approach.
Yeah, waiting for it to happen to them.
And then when they find themselves behind, then they go after them, after France, and they're the better team.
Absolutely.
They should have won.
Yeah.
Why not start off and be positive and say we're just going to outgun you today, have that confidence.
But what's
in your
that
players.
mindset? Because I make this observation about, I think Hodgson's England team were a reactive team. Let's wait and see what the opposition does. Worry about the opposition, and then when they've done it, we're going to react to it. It's a state of mind, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Like going back to when I was a player, long before we would be going into Eastern Europe, playing against teams that we didn't know too much about.
Right.
Because there wasn't the same coverage as there is today. Joe Fagan would say to me, and I knew, I got it pretty quickly, said, now, just before we're going out the draw, he'd say to me, now you'll have a good look today, son, won't you? Me as a holding midfield player, that meant don't be empty in that space. Just see where the game goes, how it's developing. So we were starting in a cautious way. But England going to play, whoever they play today, they'll have played against them before.
Get up.
They know who the players are playing against. They'll play against them maybe in Champions League games. They know what the opposition are. They know what they're good at, they know what they're not good at. And I would suggest, and it's hard for a Scotsman to say, that this group of English players today could go and take anyone on in a goal fest and outscore them. That's how I see this England team. They're very, very good.
But it's a mentality thing, though, isn't it? I mean, I don't know, for you, and my life is obviously very different to yours because I've gone down a different route. You're a professional footballer and a professional manager. A mindset approach to things. Is it the same thing where in business I look at it and go, I worry about what I can do, not what the opposition can do?
Well, I thought England have been opposite to that. I think England worry about the opposition. Instead of saying to themselves, we're that good, we can go and take them on in any type of game they want. And that's how good this group are, in my opinion.
You think Bellingham's the best in the world right now in his position?
Best in the world? He is a fabulous player, but he's 20. I mean, it's how good could he be?
When you've got this
6 months at Real Madrid, I'm not.
Yeah, but he's smashing it, isn't he?
I'm not completely convinced that it's the toughest Spanish league anymore. I'm not convinced it's the toughest Italian league or the toughest German league.
But is it? Do you think it's the toughest Premier League? Because isn't it great?
It is, yeah.
Let me frame the observation.
You're going to throw foreign players into it.
No, I'm not going to throw foreign players into it. I'm going to throw where you're playing, irrespective of whether it's the toughest league. Right? We know, and we've discussed this, you and I, hundreds of times about playing in certain environments, and irrespective of whether that team is dominating the league, there's still this in huge pressure by being a Man United player. Being a Liverpool player comes with an expectation. The price on a ticket is different than being a player at another football club. And irrespective of whether the league's as tough as it was before in Spain, he's still walking into Madrid and kicking arse and taking numbers, isn't he?
Yeah.
So that tells you there's a certain mentality. It's either he's that good, or he's just completely oblivious and got no fear.
He has the potential to be, the best midfield player in the world. At 20 years old, living the life.
Do you liken him to someone like Zidane?
Yes.
You do?
That's the comparison I've made, and that's, Zidane is maybe one of a handful of players in my time where I'd actually pay money just to watch him play football. Music. You're a music fan, you've been involved in the music business.
Yeah, no, very much. I mean,
Tell me about it.
It's an offshoot, isn't it? I like anything that's to do with entertainment. When I was building Palace, or trying to build Palace, I was making films and I was very invested in music. And there was a band in the 70s that were pivotal in my young life called The Specials that I wanted to get back reformed, and subsequently did. And they went on and did 4 or 5 world tours.
Football's become more, it's more of
Disney-fied.
more of an entertainment than ever before.
Yeah. I mean, look, musicians and actors and footballers, there's a lot of similarities between them. You know, in the film industry, when
Difficult to deal with.
well, you're in films. Like I made a film with Kevin Spacey. I know Kevin Spacey's off the radar now and got all kinds of vilification. He's now cleared his name, so he's back into a position where he's bankable again and usable again. But when you're dealing in the film industry, your director is your football manager, and your players are your actors, and they're very highly paid and often difficult to deal with. So there's a lot of similarity between it. But like you, I mean, I don't know. You like music? Are you a big music bloke?
No, I'm not a big. Never been to a music festival. I bet I've not been to 10 live gigs.
You don't like any? I mean,
Yeah, I listen to music.
Godley and Creme,
Yeah, but I'm not.
Steely Dan.
Yeah, Doobie Brothers. Yeah,
These young producers over there again.
Who?
Steely Dan.
Yeah.
Crosby, Stills and Nash.
Yeah, no, I'm not. My favourite band of all time would have been the Rolling Stones. There you are.
Really? I'll tell you a story about the Rolling Stones.
I saw them Hampden Park once.
I saw them in San Francisco, and I'm over in America, and I'm with Meg Matthews, and she's had a turn, and she's left because I'm not paying enough.
I can understand that.
Not paying enough attention to
Being
her.
with you, yeah.
Well, we didn't all get younger wives and then Svengali them, did we? Right. So I'm over in America. Meg's done a disappearing act, right? And I'm with Ray Winston. And
Such a name drop, right?
No, but I'm telling the story because this is what they want, right? He's making Beowulf, and I'm trying to pump my film Telstar over there and get it sold for the American film market. And Meg phones me up and goes, "I've been gone for 3 days." I said, "Have you?" "Oh, right. I was in Shutters. I didn't realise you'd been gone." She goes, "Yes, I have. And I'm over here with the Rolling Stones because she is godmother to Ronnie Wood's son, Jesse Wood's child." So she said, "They're over here."
Is that Joe? Is that Joe?
Joe was Ronnie Wood's wife. His son via Joe, I think, was Jesse.
I was out for dinner, name drop. I was out for dinner with her
just as bad then,
a month ago.
Right. So in the middle of my story, Meg saying, listen, they all love their football. They'd love to have a chat with you. So my immediate response was, "Oh, I'm going to have a talk with these old farts. What am I going to have a talk with them for? I can't be bothered." You're on speakerphone. And they've all just listened to that little diatribe. I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "Can I have some tickets for the concert? Can I have some tickets to San Francisco," which they gave me.
See, I thought Mick was a cricket fan.
And a football fan.
Was he?
Yeah, and a football fan. Right, we have exhausted our time on episode 7. Nice to see you.
And you.
And see you next time we're out.